You've probably heard the term per diem thrown around in trucking a lot. Maybe you've even tried to do it yourself. But what if I told you that most fleets are either doing it wrong or not doing it at all and missing out on thousands of dollars of savings? In this episode, we're breaking down what per diem really is, how it works, and how it can put more money in your pocket while also making your drivers happier too. Welcome to the Driven for Success podcast. My name is Mike. I'm the host. And we're going to talk about per diem for the next few episodes. We want to break it down into bite-sized pieces for you. So we're going to talk mostly about the employer side in this episode. We're going to start with some basic things here. What is per diem? Well, per diem is Latin for per day, and it refers to the daily allowance for meals and incidentals that drivers get when they're away from home. Over the road drivers, and we'll get to that. The IRS currently allows $80 a day to be treated as non-taxable as reimbursement if structured properly. A couple of references for you. They're IRS Revenue Procedure 2024-68 and IRS Revenue Procedure 2019-48. If you can't sleep, look those up. They will put you out like a light. But those are the things that demonstrate that per diem is legal. And so I like to give that to people. It's not some made up scam. It's not a Ponzi scheme or some other nonsense thing. It's real. So instead of reimbursing drivers or having them try and deduct it on their taxes, which you really can't do anymore anyway, you pay it through payroll and you pay it as a substitute for wage. So for an example, if a driver had 2,500 miles at 50 cents a mile, we'll just make the math easy. That's $1,250. But instead of paying them $1,250 in wage, you'd pay them $850 in wage and $400 in per diem if they were gone 5 nights. So that's what we're talking about here. You're still out the same amount of money as far as compensation to the driver, but we get to make some of it non-taxable. So why does this matter so much? Like, what's the big deal about this? Great, we pay per diem, whatever. Well, on the company side, it's going to save you payroll taxes. You're not going to pay FICA, which is Social Security and Medicare, on that per diem wage. So $80 a day times 7.65 times 260 days, which would be 5 days a week for 52 weeks. You're looking at what, $1,500, $1,589 just in payroll tax savings that you're going to get from that one driver. That's a lot of money. That's already real money. That's money in your pocket. It's less payroll tax you pay each week. So it starts right away. This isn't one of those get it back in 5 years kind of things. It pays back right now. So that's about $30 a week right there. You also, in every policy I've ever seen, per diem is not subject to workers' comp premiums. So you can do your own math. And we have a great tool at the end of this podcast to share with you about how you can actually find out the total savings. But you figure if your work comp rate is another 8%, or even just use 7.65 again, same as FICA, it's another $1,589 from that driver. So you're up almost to $3,200 right there in savings. Now you will pay a little bit more in income tax because per diem's only 80% deductible. But on the tool we'll share with you, we account for that. There's some other possible savings here as well, and I don't usually consider it part of the deal, but I want to disclose it. If you have a liability insurance policy of any kind, not your trucking liability, I don't think it'd matter with that unless you have a really funny policy. But if they have other liability things, if they base it on payroll, your payroll is going to be lower, and so it'll save you a little bit there too. To me, that's almost a rounding error, so I don't consider it part of the big deal, but it's worth talking about. And perhaps the biggest benefit, I mean, we figure between 2,000 and 2,500 usually where people come in, savings per driver per year. But the bigger benefit is the benefit your drivers get. They're going to get more take-home pay, and we're going to talk about that more in the next episode. But the idea is them getting more pay might keep them around. So if you figure, we'll be a little conservative here and figure $2,000 per driver per year that you can save with per diem. If you've got 10 drivers, there's a lot of you out there with 10 drivers. That's 20 grand a year. That's $400 a week in your pocket starting right now that you can get by paying per diem. That should be enough to get you to do this. It's a lot of money. 20 grand every year. And you're helping your drivers. I think it's incredible. So the reason that we talk about this, and if you've ever seen me on social things, you'll see that I talk about this all the time. It's because half of the trucking companies in the United States don't pay per diem. And I think that's crazy. And even among the ones that do them, and we're going to talk about this, they do it wrong. So you could really want to maximize this and get that 20 grand for your 10 trucks, right? You could use that money. That's truck payments. That's, paying yourself. You should always pay yourself first anyway. So that's money to pay you. Um, Now we're going to talk about some of the bonus benefits for you as an employer. The fact that you're giving your drivers per diem or giving them the per diem program, which should cost you nothing and you actually save money. They also increase their net pay by about $90 a week, so $4,500 a year. Biggest raise they're ever going to get. But the nice thing too is besides the $90 a week, and believe me, the $90 a week is a big, big thing. The other part of it is that you're showing your drivers that you're trying to do what you can to help them. You're trying to find every way you can to make their paycheck bigger. And so normally in relationships like this, when you're dealing with it's true in trucking, but it's true in other industries too, when you're dealing with management versus labor, when one gains, the other one has to lose. And that's not the case here. We can both win, and the losers are the IRS and maybe your work company. But we don't care about them as much. We care about our drivers and we care about ourselves more than we care about the IRS and the work comp company. So we want to do this. But that's really the key thing. And that's the thing that a lot of people miss is they think, oh, if I'm paying the drivers more, if the driver's getting more net pay, it's costing me money. That's absolutely not true. It is the opposite of what is true. You save money, they save money. They save more per driver, but you save more in total unless you only have two drivers. Which still, even two drivers, you're out there where you're driving, you got your truck and another truck, $4,000 a year, $80 a week in your pocket. That's a huge W, man. Take the win. So this all matters because with the driver recruiting part, driver retention part, you gotta, if you show these guys and women that you're there for them and that you're trying to maximize their money for them, they're going to stick around because not everybody's going to do that for them. You'd think they all would. We'd like to think everybody would do that, but that's not how it works. So you really have to, you show them, hey, look, here's the math, and we want to put an extra $90 in your check. What do you think? Well, almost all of them are going to say yes. And we'll talk about the no's in another episode. So it's really a great way to show them you're in it for them. Also, it's a good recruiting tool too, because the drivers that know what per diem is and know how good it is, when they see that in your driver recruiting on your job posting or on your job, on your web page where you list your open positions or however you do it, on your Indeed ad or your Facebook ad or LinkedIn ad, whatever, right? Craigslist. Mention that you pay per diem. It's only going to help you because they'll know that these guys, they're going to get me more money than the other guys would. It's a bigger difference than a couple cents a mile. So give that some thought. Let's now shift over to some of the common mistakes that trucking companies make when they pay per diem. One of them is paying per diem as a percentage of pay. Instead of paying $80 a day, they say, 30%, 33%, 40%, 25%, whatever. That much is going to be per diem. And that's what we're going to do. Well, it sounds easier. It may be easier for the flow of what you're trying to do, like trying to get them paid, but you're either going to underpay per diem, and that's going to cost you money. So you're not going to get the full savings. Or you're going to overpay per diem, and you're going to be outside of what I would call outside of IRS compliance, which is a nice way of saying the IRS can come get you. It's a silly thing to get rung up for. It's a silly thing to get audited for. The math's pretty simple. They can see how many days your driver was out because you'll have to produce bills of lading and to show they were, they left Los Angeles on this day and delivered in Detroit on this date, and they'll be able to count the days and figure it out. So you want to be careful with that. Another one is paying per diem by the mile. We will see somebody who says, "Oh, I pay per diem 12 cents a mile or 15 cents a mile or 8 cents a mile or whatever." Again, same problem. You either are overpaying per diem, which puts you outside of IRS compliance, or you're underpaying per diem, which is leaving money on the table both for you and the driver. Both of these two things, the percentage of pay and mileage pay, most of the time when I see it, it, it stems from one of two causes. It's either, well, that's the way our software does it. Well, then you have the wrong software because that software is costing you money. There's got to be a better way. I'm going to start with that. We love Ascend. There are other great ones out there too. But you can do it in there. Or your payroll process, I will say, whether you do it in-house or outsource to somebody else, won't let you do it that way. It's too complicated. That's a bad reason. Those are both bad reasons. It's too much money to mess around with, and you don't want to be out of compliance. You could find yourself both overpaying and underpaying the same driver different weeks. And you'd hope it would all work out. And yeah, I'm not telling you that you're automatically going to get audited or anything like that. I don't know when you're going to get audited, but you really want to make sure you're doing it right. And it's a lot easier just to do it right the first time, and you never have to worry about it. Another misstep that we see from time to time, and we work with them on this, is applying per diem to every driver. So a driver that the rules are for the IRS, they say you have to be under hours of service requirements, which they all are because they're drivers. And you have to be in multiple meals and incidental markets. The IRS will define meals and incidental markets. You can find it. You search the IRS website. We can get you a link for that too, but I don't have it right in front of me. It's not hard to get multiple meals in incidental markets, but they generally don't want somebody going from Dallas to Fort Worth. I don't know if they're different markets or not, but they could be, and back, like a local driver. Those guys don't get per diem. Local drivers don't get it. The rule of thumb is, for me, is if you sleep in your bed every night, you're pretty questionable. Now, there are some drivers who get up at 4 a.m. and will drive, take a load 200 miles, drop and hook, take another load back 200 miles, and they paid per diem. And I would let the IRS judge on that one. I think it's a reasonable thing to take it because they can't stop for meals, which is why they do it this way. They're stuck. They can't go home for lunch. They can't, there's so many limitations on their time with the hours of service requirements. So I think you can make a case for those guys. But if you're just the local driver, you're the last mile guy, you shouldn't be getting per diem. The final misstep about per diem is you don't pay it to 1099s. Whether they're supposed to be 1099 or not, whether they're owner operators or company drivers that you're just 1099ing, which is a whole other matter, that's not the thing. You can't 1099 those guys. In those cases, each of those people would deduct it on their personal taxes through their Schedule C, assuming they're supposed to be 1099. So just put that out there. You want to make sure that this plan is tied to the nights that the driver's gone. That's just the best way to do it. It's easy. So for the over-the-road people, it's really easy. Again, you can also get the night that they leave and the day they come home and things like that. So you be cool about it. Don't get crazy on this. Also, if let's say you have a driver, and I think these drivers exist, I know they exist, is a driver who basically just lives in the truck. If they live in the truck literally 365 days a year, and you try and pay them 365 days of per diem, the IRS will deny it. And they can do the math too, 365 times 80. They know what that is. So they'll deny it because they'll say the driver lived in the truck and he was home every night. So be mindful of that. My personal advice is I would not go more than 6 days a week. I mean, you're going to have drivers that are gone for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, pay them 7 days for those, but then they're going to have a week at home, so it should all work out. If a driver gets more than 310 days of per diem, that's tight. That's pretty hard to mess with. So then you really run into the problem of, well, they were home every night because they live in the truck. So that's the main idea on the employer side. We're going to put some graphics in there. We're going to put them in the show notes so you can see them. We'd love for you to look at this. Now, I promised a tool, and here it is. Go to truckingpayroll.com and go to the per diem savings calculator. You can either get to it through the resources and then go down to per diem, or it should be right on the front page, I believe. And you can put in your own information and see exactly how much you're going to save with per diem. It will net out any possible extra income tax you would pay. It'll walk you all through it. But it's a lot of money, but you can see for yourself. So go do that. Go find out how much money you could start saving now by paying per diem to your drivers. Yeah, again, truckingpayroll.com/per diem-2, I believe it is, but just go to truckingpayroll.com. You're going to find it, but it's quick and easy and eye-opening. If this episode was helpful to you, Please like, follow, and subscribe. We're a new podcast. We need to make this podcast more visible to help people like you, people that are running small fleets. It's hard, and you guys are kind of out on an island. You don't have access to the resources that big trucking companies have. You don't have the staff of payroll accountants. You don't have the staff of insurance, whatever they do, with those people. You don't have the staff to do all these things. It's you. And you might even be driving a truck while you're doing it. So if you could like and follow and subscribe, it will help more trucking families find us, and it would mean a lot. On the next episode, we're going to talk about the employee side of per diem, the driver side of per diem, and we'll share with you how the math works for them, and we'll share with you some things that you can do to make the per diem rollout go even better. We're looking forward to talking to you soon.